Good morning. My name is Carl Johann Schroeder, and this is my meetup, Inner Selves for Outer Mastery. And the idea being that we have an inner world to master. And mastery is not control. It's not slavery. It's mastering in the sense of being like taking good care of a pet, taking good care of the world, being a good steward, a good shepherd. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I've had a very humbling week myself because, as you know, Spirit assigns me these topics, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm going to go through some stuff myself, and I sure did. The last couple weeks really I've been really facing my own habits of control. So control is about domination. You really can't seek to control things without being negative, without being hurtful. And why? Because the universe already works. There already is a natural control system to the universe. There's no reason to boss it around, to think that we have to make it work in some way. The universe already works. And why then do we experience so much so many complications and failure and struggle and stress? Well, it's because of the false belief systems. It turns out that this reality is generated by our consciousness. We can stay at a lower level of awareness in which we think that the world is solid, is real, things impact each other, and we have to make things work, and things don't work unless we make them work, and we have to convince people and influence people, and we have to have money, and we have to have resources, and if you don't, boy, you're really screwed, and all those kind of beliefs. That's a lower level of awareness. And it's okay to be at that lower level of awareness that takes the world very literally, that takes the experiences very literally and solidly. That's the human experience. That's the human level. As long as your life is working beautifully and smoothly, then go for it. Why not? Why not have life be actual, solid, real in front of you, and people are doing wonderful things for you, and you're doing wonderful things for people, and you fit in and you belong, and society is working great. Okay. And in fact, a lot of beings in the universe live at that level on planets that are really easy, that are really fun, that are full of positive beliefs, that generate really positive experiences. However, we are on Earth. Welcome to Earth. So Earth is a complicated place, isn't it? So what's happening is that we see this big contrast between how incredibly beautiful Earth can be. And it's true. Earth is one of the most diverse, rich, fertile planets in the universe. There's such a diversity of life here. There are so many different ecosystems that can thrive, not in direct proximity, but they can all thrive on the same planet. Earth is very generous, very fertile, very, very much full of life energy. What's happening is that amazing goodness of Earth appears to be offset by a lot of dangers, right? So even before humans came along, there were dangers, but nature took care of them. There are things like toxic heavy metals, what is it, cadmium, or certainly mercury, the various radioactive minerals. There's no natural use for them. They are toxic to life. And so nature dealt with it by sequestering, by putting aside these toxic minerals. And that's a big problem then when humans want to mine the earth for various minerals, for various properties of these minerals and chemicals. Humans tend to be rather clumsy about stuff and release a lot of the toxicity. So there's a lot of, for example, mines in the South American Southwest that are just leaching toxic minerals because people were so busy drilling down for the gold and silver veins and whatever. They exposed a lot of what nature had naturally sequestered, these toxic minerals. Lead, okay, there's another one. Lead's a big one. And people have tried to find reasons to use lead, right? So the early Romans, they would lead line their pipes and aqueducts. And it actually took centuries for people to start realizing that, like, lead is really toxic. So I'm just giving this one example of how nature deals with stuff. Nature knows that there are things that are toxic, bad for life, that do not promote life processes. There are chemicals, there are minerals that living systems just cannot deal with. And the best you can do is that your body will sequester it. Your body will do something to set it aside, get it out of the way. Well, this is a big hint. This is a big hint. This is how we need to think about life in general as we become these more conscious beings, these human beings that we are, who have free will, who have the ability to make choices that nature never made. And it doesn't mean that humans are bad. It means that we have evolved naturally, completely naturally. Consciousness naturally expands. It's just a property of consciousness. You think about it, it's like the way things work is that you experience a situation enough that you feel like you got it. You understand what's going on. And then you just naturally tend to step back and observe yourself in that situation and start to imagine things like, well, what could happen next? And how, if it's a good situation, how can I make that happen more often? And if it's a really bad, painful situation, how can I make that not happen? So the human mind, the human brain is characterized by having extra processing space. Our brains are out of proportion to our body. In nature, so for example, elephants have a big brain, but they also have a very complex trunk and a big body to control. Now, there's a fundamental characteristic where human beings are able to stage and imagine things that aren't in front of them, that our brains have extra processing space, and we can use that extra processing space in amazing ways. We can imagine situations that just aren't in front of us, and then we can think about how can we link that to where we are, what changes can we make to get there. So then we call that the future. And then we have the thing we call the past, which is things we've experienced, but actually people don't just remember what they experienced. They're constantly embellishing it. Every time we bring a memory into our brains, into our minds, we're changing it, we're modifying it by the current circumstances, because we are continuously making use of our experiences because we're a consciousness. The bottom line is that existence is a consciousness experience, a journey of our consciousness. So consciousness naturally expands, things keep changing, things keep challenging us to become more aware of what's going on, because the goal is to increase consciousness. The goal is not to figure out the best formula to make lots of money, to make lots of friends, to whatever. The goal is to become more and more aware of how things really work. And why? Because things work beautifully. Like I started with the idea that we don't need to control things. We don't need to force things, make things happen, make things work. They will already work if we know how to work with the universe. So the goal of life is really just to keep making a peace with whatever is in front of us. If it's a toxic situation, do like nature does. You don't destroy it. You don't try to get rid of all the lead and mercury and cadmium and heavy metals. You sequester them. You put them somewhere in the rocks, in the bedrock, and get it out of the way of life, and then life can go on. Well, that's what needs to happen with consciousness, that we learn how to deal with unpleasant things or even toxic things that don't work for us, by putting them aside and focusing more on going forward with our life. And Earth, as I was saying, is a very challenging planet because Earth has so much good stuff and also a lot of toxicity. Not just the toxicity that people have invented, not just the toxic belief systems, the ideologies that make people fear and fight each other, but nature on Earth actually has examples of toxic things that we need to learn to put them aside, to somehow accept that they're there and set them aside. And life will help us do that. The consciousness of the universe will help us to do that. We don't have to seek this extra control that's based on fear, where we are staying at a lower level of consciousness and thinking, oh my God, there's only one world, and that's toxic stuff. It's going to get in my face. It's going to come after me. And people get paranoid. Just because they know about something that could be dangerous, they can't stop ruminating about it, like obsessive compulsive disorder, or we've all experienced, right? Like we know of something not to do, but then a part of our mind just keeps ruminating on like, but what if I do it? What if I accidentally trigger it? What if it comes around? What if somebody attacks me with that? What do I do? How do I guarantee that it will never, ever attack me? It's like, well, you can't guarantee by staying at that lower level of consciousness where it seems like you are powerless and things are just dangerous all over the place, and you'd never know when you're going to trip into a hole or trigger a landmine or something's going to blow up. You have to rise to a higher level of consciousness where you work with the natural order of the universe, and you work with nature, you work with these principles of sequestering, of being able to set aside, to live and let live, to realize there are things in life that aren't good for you, that aren't your way of doing things, that aren't going to help you with your life. And you need to let that be okay. Let it be somebody else's life. Let it be somebody else's thing to deal with. The way you deal with it is that you respond by your principles as a consciousness. So this is where we have to move into higher levels of consciousness to get away from toxic control, which becomes about the punishment. So we'll talk about that more in a second. But the point is, toxic control is about forcing things, dominating against their will, whereas natural control is about letting, everything has a place and everything in its place. It's okay. You want to be where you belong to thrive. You don't want to be with people and in places where you can't function. And you see that on Earth. Earth is mirroring, is representing, is showing, is illustrating, depicting the variety of belief systems, the variety of lifestyles that can exist, because Earth is so diverse. It has so many different ecosystems that do not mix, okay? Like, a deep sea animal cannot exist on the land. It's going to explode from the pressure that it's used to. Or a land animal can't exist in the sky. It's going to fly, but for a very brief time downward. It's going to hit the ground and go splat. Whereas some animals are more flexible. So birds, they can fly. There are birds. I mean, like ducks, one of the more prevalent species in the world. So many species of ducks. Ducks are amazing. They can fly. They can swim in the water. They can walk on the land. They're very adaptable. And that's another hint from nature. Nature is always giving us hints of guidance of how to work with things. We want to be a consciousness who is flexible enough to have a healthy response to all situations. It's not a toxic adaptation. We don't want to say, okay, I'll put up with abuse. I'll just, find ways to dissociate, numb out. You can do whatever you want to me, and then I hope to survive. That would be more like playing possum. Okay, it is really interesting, isn't it, to see how the various adaptations that people could try, they already exist in nature in different ways. So opossums, they have an unusual response, fear response, where their entire system just locks up. They become paralyzed in fear. So they're really exhibiting one of the 4 survival reactions. The survival reaction of freeze, where opossum, they will just freeze and they will play dead. And fortunately, most animals will then think, well, it's dead, and I wanted to chase something alive. I wanted fresh meat. What's wrong with this thing? It triggers deeper senses in the predator of like, there's something wrong with this thing. I don't want it. So many times opossums, they will survive by playing dead. Well, it's not going to work as well for humans. We don't want to play dead. We don't want to just dissociate. We may survive, we may get killed. But if we dissociate, we're just going to be left with a memory of this terrible thing that could happen to us. And the survival reaction I had, you don't want to stay in survival reactions. That's what we're seeing in the world today. So many people are staying at the lower level of consciousness, where they think the world is real and solid and things threaten them. They have to control things somehow. So the way they control is the 4 survival reactions. So briefly, the 4 survival reactions, we all heard of fight and flight, right? And you'll see later where I talk about the 4 levels of human experience: the physical, the emotional feelings, the mental thoughts, the spiritual values and inspirations. So I like to map things to those 4 levels, very archetypal. So the 4 survival reactions map rather nicely. So at the physical level, it's fight. Something's out to get you, you're going to kill it, you're going to stop it. you don't want to be in fight mode your whole life. And there we see a lot of people who are doing that. They're fight. And that leads to the most obvious form of negativity, of negativity being like anti-life, anti-love, just that's a survival reaction, which is actually destructive in the long run. It may in the short run get you to survive, but at the expense of so many things that you really need to survive in the long run. So, in other words, we see all the people who become really, really toxic, aggressive, kind of dictators, narcissists. They're all about like kill the enemy, kill the enemy. Well, they're going to run out of enemies, and they're going to just face themselves. They are their own enemy. We don't want to be in fight mode all the time. If you are in fight mode, you want to have a greater sense of like, I'm just trying to push out boundaries. I'm just trying to, like, you stay in your corner, I'll stay in mine. I don't have to kill you. The second big survival reaction in that direction of control is the flight, which I like to map to the emotional level. So physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. So emotional level, the flight, just get away. Just, survive by escaping. So yeah, you can do that in your life. And what happens is the world gets smaller and smaller, right? There's fewer and fewer things I can deal with. Like I've been running away from that. Eventually a lot of people, they give up on relationships. Okay, I had so many bad relationships, a few divorces, narcissists, whatever. I just give up. Forget it. I've run away from relationships altogether. People just keep running away, and their life energy diminishes to a smaller and smaller area, where you get these people who are just like, they're afraid to leave their home, agoraphobia. They're afraid of anything. They're just trying to like survive in a little controlled space. So obviously a person who's living on flight, they're not as obnoxious, they're not as, deadly and out to like start wars and kill you, but they're really sad in their own way. They're hiding in their home. They can't deal with anything. It's another form of control. They're trying to control the environment in endless survival. But again, endless survival happens because we're not rising to a higher level of consciousness where we can see the principles of the universe. There are ways to sequester the toxic things. You don't have to live with toxicity. You can go where you belong, where you're safe. The deep sea animals, they stay in the deep sea. The land animals, they stay in the land. Something in the jungle stays in the jungle. Something in the desert stays in the desert. It's okay to be whatever kind of being you are, sort of metaphorically corresponding to different environments of different animals. Just take a hint from nature. There are places that you don't belong. The third kind of survival reaction, when people seek that control, corresponds to the mental level. So you may or may not have heard of freeze and appease, or freeze and fawn. The different ways that people try to, get the same first letter. So freeze and fawn, or freeze and faith, the same letter F. So that's kind of nice. Fight, flight, freeze, faith. But I kind of like the rhyming of freeze and appease. So freeze is the response corresponding to the mental level, kind of like the opossum. You just like stop. Like my mind is racing. I'm shutting down. I'm paralyzed. I'm just going to try to like stay low. And, I can't even flight, run away. I just can't even think what to do. I'm in a panic. And sometimes that can work. You end up being like less appealing to the predators, like a possum who's playing dead. On the other hand, it can really make you great, a victim, a permanent victim. And then there are people who go beyond natural instincts to prey upon the weak, the victims. So yeah, you don't want to stay in a state of paralysis, freeze. That's where people get anxiety attacks, panic attacks. They just don't know what to do. And then they become the sheep, the followers. It's like, I'm so freaked out. Can somebody who looks like big and powerful, some strong man, somebody who's like really doing a lot with the fight, it's like, I'm too scared to fight. I'm too scared to even run away. Can I just like vote for you and say, go ahead, you do whatever you want to me, to my life, and go ahead, make promises that you'll take care of me, because I'm just freaked out. I'm just waiting to see if I survive. So you don't want to stay in the freeze. And the fourth one, corresponding to the top level, the spiritual experience, is the appease, freeze and appease, nice rhyme there. So appease is when you go into denials. You tell yourself, oh, this is probably good for me. I should play along. I should join, if you can't beat them, join them, right? It's like, well, no. I mean, you don't want to just become another soldier for the war. You don't want to just join in somebody else's life and do whatever they say. But that's what appease is about. Appease is about saying oh, this doesn't feel good. I think I'm in danger. No, let me assume that I'm not in danger. This is all meant to be. It's all good, all meant to be. Life is going to be great. I'll just go along. And you become a collaborator. You become a supporter. You become an enabler. And you see a lot of people like that who they remain at a lower level of consciousness because they don't even want to think about what might be really happening. They're trying to stay at a very simple story they're telling themselves of everything's good, I'm taken care of, everything's fine. Well, I'm sorry, everything's not fine. It is fine if you really become conscious enough to work with the real universe. Again, as I said, there's no reason to go down these paths of toxic ways of controlling. There is a real universe that has its own real control system, the way things work. And you will be safe and it'll be fine. But you have to get to a level of consciousness. You have to be aware of that. Especially if you were born on a planet like Earth. Back to the point of why is Earth so special? Earth is one of the planets in the universe that is incredibly rich and diverse with life. And Earth naturally coordinates all the life in different ecosystems, sequesters the things that are toxic, that aren't good for any life, and Earth works. And nature is so wonderful and refreshing because you look at it and it's like, wow, maybe my life could work. Look how beautiful nature is. It gives you some hope. It refreshes you. It restores you at a deep, deep level. So then you go back into civilization and your day-to-day concerns, and you're like, I don't know how to apply the diversity and harmony, the wisdom of nature. I don't know how to apply that to my immediate situation where, something's scary and this person's out to get me, or, I'm running out of money, or, somebody's ruining my world and economy and polluting and whatever. How do I deal with that? Well, this is where we have to rise to a higher level of consciousness. And long story short, the point is that you have a higher self. You have already come from the higher levels of consciousness. All time is simultaneous. We tell ourselves narrative stories to work through situations to become more conscious of the principles of the universe in a new situation. You have a higher self, a higher you, who is always eternally joyful, happy, in harmony with the universe. And your higher self saw Earth and said, wow, that's an amazing place. It's got really good things going for it and really bad things going for it. Wow, I would have to be at a really high level of consciousness to be able to thrive on Earth, wouldn't I? I don't want to just go to a party planet. There are these party planets where it's everything's very homogeneous, everything's very safe and sweet, and everybody just has a good time, and they never have to really be challenged to learn how to deal with hard situations. There are a lot of beings, a majority of beings, who really, they live in a bliss and a happiness. But you, in your higher self, not masochistic, but ready for the challenge, you said, I want to go to a planet like Earth, where there's some really good things and really bad things, and I really have to learn how the universe works to be able to deal with the bad things, get them out of my way, live and let live, and be able to focus on where I belong to thrive, like the creatures in various ecosystems who can thrive. Such a variety, such a fertile, amazing variety on Earth. And so you incarnate on Earth, and you choose, at your higher level of consciousness, you choose a whole life plan. And it's a dynamic life plan. You don't have to worry oh my God, I ruined my life. I ruined my higher self's plan for me. No. The higher self, it's around you, it's within you all the time. It's continually updating plans. The point is, you can't get that far off your plan. You're in a certain physical body. You have certain desires, certain needs, and you have a certain personality. Every human being is an individuating consciousness who has certain skills, certain gifts, certain talents to contribute, that sense of purpose and destiny. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, just the sense of destiny. That's what will come to you when you find your flow. Flow, in the title of this meetup, talking about being safe in your flow. You are safe in your flow when you follow your higher self's plan. The plans you make for yourself at a higher level, at a deeper level, continually updated plans. Okay, fine, you made a mistake. Let's start over. Let's go do this, go do this, go do this. Your higher self will tell you exactly what to do, where to do it, and you're not just a puppet of your higher self. You are your higher self now having a good time. You're like, great, this is what I came for. I can follow the higher wisdom, and I can find the place where I can thrive. I can understand at a higher level of consciousness how life works, the things not to do, the things to do, and I can get into a flow. Flow is when you're having the best time, your life is working, synchronicities, everything, you feel in the groove, opportunities come to you. You know, you think of a friend and they call, and you ask yourself, I wonder how to do this, and the solution comes to you. It's in a flow. It's beautiful, right? Why doesn't life always flow like that? Well, it would. This is the challenge, though. Your flow will naturally lead to you all parts of your life. But then people have these false negative beliefs, these toxicities that they haven't learned how to deal with, and they say, like, no, that's it. I can't deal with this area of my life. I can't deal with that area of my life. Just forget it. It's bad. Don't even take me there. Your flow, your higher self, your divine plan will naturally make you feel really good and happy, and then it will naturally take you to another area of your life that you need to deal with. And your higher self will guide you, will tell you exactly what's going on, the best way to work with things, the best way to have a good outcome, even if other people are struggling and having a terrible time and applying all of their fear reactions, those four survival reactions, the fight, the flight, the freeze, the appease. You see people around you doing those things, and it's like, don't stay in that state. It's not gonna go well for you. But they do it. Well, you don't have to. You follow your higher self, you will keep learning about how to master how life really works, and you will get to a point of being able to follow the flow everywhere you go. You won't be afraid. You won't worry like, I was in such a groove, and then what happened? I had to pay the bills or something. We can talk about this more later. I want to wrap up my introduction here. But the point is, there is a thing called flow. The universe already works. A higher part of you, a deeper part of you already knows how things work and is whispering in your ear, do this, go here, it'll be okay. And just because we have these false beliefs, which are part of our challenge, we wanted to come here to learn how to deal with the toxic false things. False beliefs scare us away from where we need to go. Don't be afraid. You need to go everywhere you need to go in life. Not to go over there and change other people who don't even have to have anything to do with you, but to deal with the things in your life in the continuing flow. When you can flow through all parts of your life, the easy, fun stuff that you're really good at it, and I've been enjoying that since I was a kid. I know how to enjoy candy and ice cream. All right, that's easy. There's a flow. But I don't know how to enjoy paying my bills. That's more difficult. Well, maybe if I was really wealthy, maybe if I was really rich, if I had $1 billion, how do I get $1 billion? Well, maybe if you need to expand your ideas of wealth, let money come to you when you need money. Be in a flow of life will always supply you. Basically, I want to wrap up with this concept. You are a part of the universe. You're, in fact, the whole universe in a certain form. But just like every organ of your body, you don't single out a part of your body and say, like, that part of my body's bad. I don't want that to ever function. I want to starve that part of my body. No, you would love every part of your body to be flowing, happy, healthy. The universe feels the same way about you. You are an important part of the universe. You have gifts and talents to offer. You are a unique personality for a reason. The universe is giving you everything you need to function. And it's only the false negative beliefs that say, no, I can't. I'm going to go somewhere where I'll die. I can't. There's no solution. That's false. That's not true. That's part of what you came here to understand, is why you get afraid, why there are false beliefs, why you can change those beliefs and work with your higher self and have a good outcome flow through all parts of your life. Your life can be beautiful, magical all the time. It will take a little practice to get there. That's all. And yeah, we're in a big period of practice right now, right? The world is pretty scary. A lot of people doing those 4 survival reactions to intense extremes. But you don't have to buy into that. You can be guided by your higher self, and you can be safe in your flow always. There. That's my introduction. Went a little long on that, but I wanted to get a nice encapsulation of ideas.
Okay, I'm going to describe now the format that we use for the check-ins, for the sharings. I encourage you to pause the recording and do this for yourself because it's going to help you to center, ground, and balance your energy in this challenging subject material. And then I'll be sharing some highlights from the conversation we had based on the check-ins.
So for the sharing, 3 things. Just, say your name and where you're calling from. Secondly, say a little something about how you're doing. Especially if you want to say in the 4 categories. How are you doing physically? How are you doing emotionally? Your feelings, what you've been feeling. How are you doing in your thoughts? And how are you doing in your values, your inspirations? That's the spiritual level. That's those 4 basic areas of life. That's a really good way to align yourself, to get to know yourself. So say a little something about how you're doing. And then what do you think of this topic? How have you noticed the times in your life when you're in a flow, when you're in a groove and it feels so good? And then what happens? You're drawn to another part of your life where it doesn't flow, and you can get paranoid. Or, how do you handle when another area of your life comes up and it feels like, boy, that's in the way, but maybe there's a way I can get through this. How have you handled flow versus your survival reactions of control, which make things worse? So who would like to start with the check-ins?
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for feeling safe enough here to share how difficult life can be for you. And just to reassure you, these are perfectly human experiences. Everybody's going through them. People are showing it in different ways. So it's really beautiful for you to be so honest. Let me ask you, what's an area of life where things flow for you, where you are able to enjoy? What's something you enjoy? Think about the things you enjoy. And when thoughts come up and say, oh, but you're just being escapist, you're not dealing with life, that's somebody else, you can never do that. Those are the false thoughts, okay? When you enjoy something, there is something there that you are good at, that is good for you, and you can do more of. So go ahead. If you enjoy finding an interesting show or an interesting meetup on the internet, then go for it. It's calling you. There's something in that. There's a flow for you. There's something good. You are a good person. So you want to push back on those false beliefs that say, "Oh, you're a bad person. You're just escaping. Your life will never work." That's not true. Your life is working whenever you find something you enjoy. So that's actually the start of spirituality. Finding the things you like, knowing what it is you like, and being able to say, this is real, this is me, there's something about this. Somebody else likes chocolate and I don't like chocolate, or somebody else likes this and I don't like that. Somebody likes to hike, somebody else likes to swim. Your personality, your unique personality, finding the things you enjoy, treasure that, hold on to that, and don't let any false beliefs talk you out of it. That is something very special and important about you. And yes, life is very difficult for most everyone these days because there are so many layers and layers and layers of all the struggles and the ways that we react to survive, all the beliefs that say, things are scary, we got to do this, we got to do that. Your higher self is real. Your higher self is the part of you that will guide you step by step. So yeah, your life won't become perfect overnight, but your higher self will tell you, go over here. You'll be able to cope a little better with this. You'll be able to find a better attitude here. You'll be able to. Our higher self is always guiding us step by step to make small improvements, baby steps, taking baby steps, just a little at a time. Your higher self will guide you. So start with the times when you have that flow of something you enjoy. Let that be something good about you, something that's right, and let your higher self be saying, great, you enjoy this, now let's try a little bit over here, a little bit over there. You take the baby steps and your life will change.
A great topic here you've got going today, Carl, but I think there's a bunch of different ways into it, and I was watching a Caroline Miss video this past week.
You brought up a really key word, addiction, and I like to hear that. It's good to hear that Carolyn Miss, she also speaks about these 4 survival reactions. So yeah, addiction. The issue is, what's the baseline addiction here? We're all addicted to physical reality. We would love to think that we could just push a button and make something happen. that we don't have to deal with the energy. Energy is what's real in life. I like to think of the world as empty containers, that really what matters is the energy, not the thing. Because you've seen it, same people, different people go to the same party and have totally different experiences. Why? Because they have different life stories, they have different energy, they have a different narrative, they have a different consciousness. Our consciousness, our energy flow, that's coming from our beliefs that we choose to live by. The beliefs, the lifestyle, the expectations, our explanations for the way things work, our model for what's possible, our definitions, all that stuff. That's what's in our consciousness at a deeper, higher level. And that's where we can make changes in life. We're addicted to the idea of like, oh, no, I don't have to think about the energy level, the beliefs. That's too abstract. That's too, intangible. I can't grab onto anxiety. I can't just like wrestle anxiety and, get rid of it. But I can yell at a person who's anxious and say, snap out of it, stop being a party pooper, whatever. It's like, people are addicted to thinking that physical actions could change the energy, and it doesn't. You've seen it. When we like Jim was saying, when we're in a flow of activities, and then we hit something that's a little more difficult, a little more challenging. What's happening there is that we're going from an area of high flow and happiness and ease and grace. We're going to another area of life that's triggering different beliefs. We all have a pile of positive and negative beliefs. The positive beliefs, that's the stuff that makes us happy, and it's easy and flowing. The negative beliefs, they're kind of sprinkled around our life, and we need to deal with them. That's the real work of life, is to face the negative beliefs and be the master of beliefs. When you're the master of beliefs, you'll be able to change any situation in life. Wouldn't that be nice? So you're in a flow, you're having something working great, and then you start stumbling into like, I'm going to have to do this next, and that hasn't worked for me before, and I've got all kinds of beliefs of definitions of how this is going to be hard, this is going to be trouble. I'm thinking about that chocolate cake now. I'm thinking about, I want to take a break. I'm thinking about that series on, that TV show I want to watch another episode of. I want to get back to some happy stuff. That's fine to want the happy stuff, but we're being addicted to the forms of the happy stuff. We're thinking that the thing is the energy. The thing is not the energy. And you've tried it. When you're in a state of like growing anxiety, like I need to deal with something that I don't know how to deal with, and there are beliefs behind it, there are choices behind it that I don't understand. I would love to think that like, I can just get this person to do it for me, or I can get this happy thing to make me feel good again. Those are the addictions. So addiction, it's a real key word, and we're all addicted to material reality. The bottom line is, at the human level, when we live inside of beliefs and we have no perspective on their choices, on our beliefs, we would love to think like, just do the right things, just have enough money to buy the right things, and we'll always be happy. But no, it doesn't work that way. Fundamentally, there's no amount of stuff, there's no amount of things you can get that you could control that would always fix your life, that would always make you happy. Your flow is going to naturally lead you into difficult situations where what's difficult is the belief. Change the belief, change the choices, the energy will flow, and suddenly the same situation could work really well. And then it becomes part of your flow, and then it's like, that's a happy place for me. I manage that. I'm really good at that now. Everybody, take a moment. Think about things that used to be a really life or death challenge for you. Like, I can't possibly do that. I'm going to die. Okay, maybe when you were growing up, a child becoming an adolescent, or an adolescent starting to deal with adult things like, I got to learn how to drive. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And then, oh my God, you have to deal with it, and step by step, take the baby steps. Now you can do things. Now you can drive. Now you can walk when a baby couldn't walk. Now you can do things that used to be life or death scary. The life or death scary was the false beliefs that told you you'll never be able to do it. When the real universe would be telling you, you can do it, it's okay. You can't do it right now, that's okay. The energy though, let's start with what you like. This is why we're naturally drawn to things that we would enjoy. I think of something I would enjoy. Okay, go ahead and enjoy that. It only becomes an addiction if you're trying to stay doing that all the time. You need to be able to go from the things you enjoy to the things you don't enjoy and work it through and become a master of beliefs.
We go ahead and get the job done, figure out what we're trying to avoid, and realize, okay, well, I need to get this done to go on to my next thing and be in the flow again. Hit a little stumbling spot here, so okay, let's get it done, get it out of the way, pay those bills, whatever it is. Procrastination only works for so long, and then they turn off the electricity. Whatever, something else bad happens. So
yeah, and
go ahead and get it. Go ahead and get it done. Be mature.
I know what you mean. Like exactly. Like there have been so many times where I dealt with something, paid the bills, and it's like, oh, what a relief! Oh my God, life will be great now. And then in a couple of weeks, new bills are due. It's like the same thing. Like, oh no, I'm terrified again. Like the same thing. That's the putting out fires mode. And you know that mode of just like do the material thing, just like push the objects, just make the thing happen. But I haven't really dealt with the energy underneath. I haven't really dealt with the lifestyle choices. I haven't really dealt with the beliefs that really drive, that really generate how things work or don't work for me. So putting out fires, you want to be aware of like, I'm holding my nose just from a distance. Let me just hurry up and do this. And then, I'll get back to fun stuff. You haven't really fixed things yet. Really going with and staying with your flow and going deep into a difficult area of your life, when you really solve it, when you get to like, oh, this is my lifelong pattern, and then the false beliefs come up and say, yeah, you're a bad person. You've never dealt with this right. It's like, no, I'm not a bad person. This is what I came here for. This is Earth. This is to learn how to do things. Like, I'm a good person. This is great. I'm facing it. No time like the present. Let's strike when the iron's hot. I'm in this. Let's find a way. And that's when your higher self, if you're willing, your higher self will give you another step of really solving it, really at a deeper level. It could be as simple as just accepting myself. It's like, boy, I'm a wreck and I have never dealt with paying the bills well, and I've always freaked out, but at least I can sit here and accept myself. I'm not a bad person. Right there, you've solved something. You've stood up to a false belief that said you're a bad person. No, I'm not a bad person. I'm just facing my challenges like everybody else. And then the next time it comes up, it's like, oh, I'm not a bad person. I already handled that one. But then something else comes up. It's like, there'll always be, people out to get me. It's like, oh, and I feel really bad about that. You got to chip away. So your higher self, these are the baby steps. Your higher self will guide you. Another little step of fixing something at the deeper level. And that is flow. You don't have to fix your life perfectly. But when you do the baby steps, when you fix a little thing at a deeper level, you find yourself feeling really good. I didn't just put out a fire. I didn't just want to forget about it until the next time it comes up. I wish it went away and it didn't. No, you're like, wow, I really followed my higher self. Maybe I didn't even know what my higher self was, but I just had a deeper sense of I'm going to be with myself. I'm going to sit with myself. A lot of times the first step is just be with yourself. Like there have been times where I've been completely panicked, freaked out by a situation. I've been running away from it my whole life. I've never wanted to deal with it. I hoped that somehow I wouldn't have to deal with it. Somebody else would take care of it. Maybe I could do the things I'm good at it and get somebody else to do it for me. Never worked. Finally, I'm going to sit here and just be with it. That alone can just shift everything. When you shift, when you're willing to get deeper into the solving the problem, you're not putting out fires anymore. You're now actually working with your higher self, changing choices, changing beliefs, becoming a master of life, and you will feel a flow. And you'll be like, I feel so great. I'm on top of the world. I'm flowing. And somebody else is like, what are you talking about? You still live in a shack. You're poor. You don't have much food, whatever. It's like, yeah, but I'm in a flow. I solved a few problems. I'm going to solve more problems tomorrow. And I'm in a flow. I can feel it because I'm with my higher self. Your higher self is the you in the eternity that has everything figured out, and they will spoon feed you all the solutions you need. So you're not addicted anymore to just doing something fast and running away. You're not addicted anymore to putting out fires and just hoping it'll go away and it never does, running off to another happy time. you're solving things at a deep level. That's all it takes. You can be in a perfect flow today, even though your life still has lots of messes. You can be in a perfect flow. You can find the happy path through your current challenges, and you will be in a golden place. You will be okay. You will find the good outcome to every situation. I'm not saying it's what we're used to. It's a challenge to think this way. I'm still getting used to it. There are things that I've procrastinated on, I've avoided, I've been deadly afraid of my whole life, but I'm chipping away at it. And every time I make a real change, it feels really good.